girls through, so I figured instead of writing it and making pictures that didn't make sense, I'd just quick do a video, and then I was gonna add some stuff that you can do at home to make it a bigger stretch, but you need like tools to do it. So half kneel, so we're gonna warm up and do our regular like jog, back pedal, shuffle. You wanna warm up, meaning like jogging, back pedal, like 3-step drop, like that kind of stuff. Any motion you're gonna make in volleyball, we wanna make before we get to volleyball. So I use all of that as my dynamic part. And then we use this kind of static dynamic combination because we are not strong enough to stabilize ourselves to get a good stretch while we're doing like the walking knee lifts and standing reaches. Like kids are not strong enough through their core to manage that, so you don't really get a good stretch. So if we do some of the dynamic stuff to get our joints going and our blood flowing, and then we go to a position where I can localize a stretch on a joint, we're gonna be much better off. So half kneel is huge for that position because it takes my foot and ankle out of it and it lets my hips and my core warm up the way they need to without having to balance or be strong enough to do it. So in half kneel, once I get done with that kind of stuff on the volleyball court, I drop to half kneel. I'm gonna hands close together. I'm gonna reach back and shift forward and come back, reach back. You never have to hold it. We're just shifting and reaching. I'm gonna do about 5 where I'm driving straight forward, and then I do 5 where I tip sideways as I go, and then I can do 5. I just use this for balance and so that my knee doesn't bail out. I'm gonna do 5 where I rotationally reach through it. That's the 3 directions the body moves, and that gets our hip flexor ready to go. If you wanna make this a bigger stretch at home, which if you're a female athlete, you should, a tight hip flexor limits your stride length when you sprint and run, your vertical leap when you jump, and limits how much your abs can initiate or contract when I'm doing something that involves core, like hitting or serving. So having this be really mobile and strong is important. Women, we are tighter anyway because of the shape of our pelvis. So I can exaggerate that stretch. This is a 4-foot piece of PVC pipe. You can use a broomstick. It just needs to be something you can leverage the body with. So I can put this stick in both hands and use it to help make sure that both arms are getting up over my head at the same time. And when I do my sideways tip, if I use this hand and I pull, that I get a little bigger stretch through here. Same thing as I'm pulling around the corner, it forces me to go further. Now again, no pinching, no low back pain with stretching, but just a really big stretch. You can also plant it so that when I drive forward, I can take my slippery floor. I can take my belly button to it. And so as I'm driving my pelvis forward, this gives me a little more leverage to push down so I get a bigger stretch. Or I put that stick right underneath my butt cheek, and when I shift forward, I'm gonna pull forward, and so that forces the very top of that muscle to let go a little bit. So I just shift and I pull into that hip. Same thing, 5 to 10 of those, and then bam, we've got hip flexors done. Now we move on to hamstring. So to hamstring, I wanna be toes up, okay, knee bent. So toes up, knee bent. And then the goal is to rotate through to my pinky toe, but I need to stick my butt out or rotate my pelvis forward as much as I can. So anytime I'm doing a hamstring or lower extremity stretch, the more and I'm moving forward, stick your butt out as much as you can. I'm gonna reach to the outside of that toe, come back, rotationally reach to the outside of that toe, come back, knee stays bent, because we get a better functional hamstring load for squatting and jumping. In a game, I can do that. At home, again, I have my trusty PVC pipe. If I have something to support my upper body, and now I can stick my butt out and rotate forwards, I feel like I get a little better stretch because I can rotate that pelvis. Or knee is still bent, toes are still up, I can push down at the crease of my hip when I rotate my chest through, holy buckets. And that gives you a very good proximal hamstring stretch. I need this to be mobile so that I can rotate my pelvis so that I get a better vertical leap for hitting and blocking, and then also so I can get deeper into my hips when I pass. So I can push down and rotate across. Hip flexors attach rotationally, so if you can add some rotation when you're stretching that muscle, it's really important. And you never ever want to stretch it with your knee straight, because then all that happens is your low back does all the work and we don't get a good hamstring stretch. So hip flexors, hamstrings, now we move to adductor. So that groin muscle is what lets us be able to cut side to side. So without my stick, if I'm in the middle of volleyball, I am here, we dropped our foot or our hands out. You stick your butt out because my trunk is moving forward, stick your butt out. Then we drive up and I drive my belly button forward, butt out, drive up. When you look at them sideways, what should happen is I drive my butt out, flat back. When I drive my pelvis up, you should be able to create a C-shaped line, front of your pelvis, front of your chest, and reach overhead. And it should be fairly even. What you see in kids is they can't load this, and so we get a lot of like arc in our back. And so the problem is if I can't drive my pelvis forward, driving my pelvis forward loads hip flexor, belly. So now when I go to hit, I have all of this power I've recruited, whereas if I'm stuck here and I just reach back, my low back hinges and my hit and my serve are a lot more shoulder. So we want to be able to see them drop into that butt, stick it out to get the hamstring part of that, and then reach up and drive forward to get the adductor part of that. Same thing, I can use my stick if I need to in front of me to plant and drive my belly button forward to get a little bit bigger stretch through there. So hamstrings, hip flexors, adductors. Now we got to talk about upper body. We had them go hands sitting down on their feet, walk your hands forward, stick your butt out, slide back up, stick your butt out, so you're trying to arch your upper back and slide forward. And then you slide forward and I rotate through and come back and rotate through and come back and rotate through. That warms up your upper back so I can reach back and serve and hit really hard. If I want to make this a bigger stretch at home, again, we go back to my 4-foot PVC stick, plant that sucker in front, hands up high. Now we drop into that and come back up and drop back into that. That stretches me into a little better upper back extension. I can also plant that hand and, whoa, slippery floor, reach through and come back because we're getting that rotational load of your upper back. We lose mobility here when we sit for long periods of time. So when they're sitting in class all day like this or they're on their phones, we lose that motion, and I need that motion to be able to load for the hit and the serve. So I've got upper back and trunk now. Now I need to go back to butt. So if I am hands and knees, if I bring my right knee towards my left shoulder, I sit into that hip. This is my right side. I'm gonna reach towards the right, come back up, reach forward and towards the right, come back up, both sides. It is not allowed to pinch. If you have a hip restriction or a bony impingement and this gets stuck, you're just gonna get an irritated hip. But if you do this right, that mobilizes this part of your muscle. This is your jumping, vertical leap, cutting muscle. So we want the girls to be able to shift and drop into it. It's gonna improve your vertical leap. So now I've got hips, now we need to move to more of our standing stuff. So we come to standing, and I get rid of that. I'm gonna go feet wide, hands up again together, and I'm gonna do that big reach, because now I need to add in quads, belly, hip flexors, and trunk. It should be the same line. I am wide. I'm wide because that loads adductor, and that adductor needs to be able to move for me to cut. And then same thing, as I reach, I have a nice curvy line. What will happen is girls will be stuck and they'll do this. That's not good. You are missing 10 mile an hour or more on your attack if you cannot get into the front side of your pelvis. So this is huge. So we do big reaches here, And then we're still wide because it's good to warm up your adductors. And we have big arm circles, great big rotation. And then we want to do lat and tricep, right? Because we're up here and we're serving or we're swinging. This muscle gets really, really tight in single-armed athletes. So I'm going to put one foot in front of the other. So my right leg is back right now. So that means my right arm is up. So I'm going to grab my elbow. I'm going to pull it down like a traditional tricep lat stretch. But because my right leg is back, now I tip to the left and come, and that stretches that entire line all the way down the side. So now I'm warming up my hip, my rib cage, my lat, and my shoulder all in one stretch. And I'm narrow, so my ankles are having to work, so you're warming up ankles and subtalar joint to decrease your risk of ankle sprain. So I'm gonna tip and pull, tip and pull. Again, at home, I can use my stick and I can use it to pull down so that I get just a little bit more aggressive of a pull here when I go, if you want to. But no pinch. We're not allowed to have a pinch in our shoulders. So we do that both sides with our tip. If you're somebody who, if we have our stick at home and we're looking for just good stretches, again, if I stagger my feet and I use that stick to push up and around the corner and come back and push up and around the corner, that warms up the front of my shoulder, my belly, and my opposite side foot. So you get a really good overpressure stretch with that. If we are in the middle of the volleyball court instead, I can swing, so I'm gonna step to the left and rotate my belly button to the left, but I'm gonna swing both arms up and turn my head to the right. So we're moving in this diagonal. That diagonal is oblique, pec, and hip flexor. So I'm gonna step and reach, like 3 to 5 times each side. Now we move to the dynamic part of it. So I wanna warm up, I wanna get my belly ready to explode when I'm gonna hit, block, serve. And I wanna get my ankles and feet warmed up so I don't twist an ankle. So if I go hands back, feet back, I'm gonna jump 2 hands, 2 feet, back as far as I can, forward as far as I can. Then I switch to 1 foot each side. Then we have to go side to side, right? Because we're gonna move in all 3 planes. So forward and back, side to side, and rotationally is how we move in every sport. So we have to warm up for all the things we're gonna do in that sport. So forward and back, double leg, single leg, then side to side. My hands and feet are gonna go to the same side. So I'm side to side, then I'm single leg, side to side, each leg 5 or 10 times. Then I'm rotational, right? So my belly button's gonna go this way, my hands are gonna go this way. So I'm twist jumping to warm that up, then I'm single leg twist. 80% of the muscles in your body are oriented to manage rotation. So warming up rotationally and strengthening rotationally are huge to getting you ready for a sport and preventing injury in a sport. So that single leg rotation is really critical to you being healthy and awesome. And then after this, now we can move into our dynamic arm volleyball type warm-ups and be ready to go.